With that, I want to introduce the women of Local 3. First, Melinda Hernandez was one of the first women to be accepted and graduate from local union. She endured racial and sexual harassment throughout, but found sisterhood and support in the few other women in the apprenticeship. When she received her associate degree in labor studies, she got a standing ovation as the first woman to graduate from Empire State College for electricians. She worked in new construction, alteration, renovation, in subways, and in tunnels. And after 17 years, Melinda was struck with a pulmonary disorder, forcing her to hang up her tools. Now semi-retired though, she fights like hell to end discrimination in the trades. I'm going to go through introducing everyone and then letting them take over.
You're first.
I tried to get out of that. Push it over there.
Wait.
Okay.
We're talking about the person.
Sorry. Good evening. I normally don't do this, but I'm kind of nervous, so I did this with my notes today. I would like to thank you all for being here today. It means a lot to me to know that people who are not in the trades care about those of us who are in the trades. I would also like to thank my family for their love and support in my life's journey. I'd like to thank my sister Sally for coming this evening. She's been very supportive. And I would like to extend a special thank you to the woman who has been my life companion for 27 years, my lover Maria. For staying with me when leaving would have been much easier. For loving me when I was so unlovable. And for believing in me and encouraging me when I chose to stay and work with my tools and when I chose to hang up my tools. Thank you. When I was growing up, my family was the only Puerto Rican family in the neighborhood. The only reason we were able to live in this particular neighborhood, which was predominantly Jewish and Italian, was because my dad took a super's job. I was exposed to a lot of racism as a child growing up. I learned how it felt not to be welcomed. My mother always used to say, they're not better than you and you're not better than them. I remember when this man came to our home, which was in the basement, to speak to my dad about joining the union. My dad had to pay rent plus gas and electric in exchange for his super's job and an apartment. The man explained how Dad wouldn't have to pay those things if he joined the union. I said, Dad, you should join. My dad didn't say anything. The next day I heard him speaking with my mom. He said, the landlord said if I joined the union, he will kick us out into the street. I'm not going to join. He had a third-grade education, a wife, and 4 kids to provide for. How could he possibly take a chance? Intimidation is not a pretty word. From a very young age, I learned to work with my hands. I used to accompany my mother to the boiler room. She would wrap a handkerchief around her nose and mouth, and I would stand there and watch her shovel coal into the boiler. The boiler that kept those people who were racist against us nice and warm at night. I would accompany her and watch her while she swept and mopped the hallways every day. Watch her shovel the dirty ashes out of the boiler into ash cans and take the cans onto the street with a hand truck. When it snowed, my mom would shovel the snow too. I helped. We helped Dad since he had to work during the day. When he got home, he had to polish the brass mailboxes every night. Hard work was nothing new to me. I remember helping my dad fix his cars. He was not a mechanic, but he was able to figure out what was wrong with the car. He would ask other men in conversation about cars, or he would learn through trial and error. I was his apprentice. As he learned, I learned. He taught me about tools. Sometimes it would be 10 degrees outside and he and I would be installing an alternator in a car. At the young age of 5, I was enrolled in kindergarten. I remember seeing my teacher and feeling my heart skip a beat. It was something I had never felt before, so I couldn't understand it. By age 10, I knew that something was, I was gay. One more strike against the super's kids. For me, it was a struggle outside my family and inside my family. I survived because I knew that God didn't make mistakes. He had made me and loved me just the way I am. At a very young age, I observed that men were treated differently than women. Boys were treated differently than girls. Women had to cater to men and watch how they spoke to them. Girls had to cater to boys and watch how they spoke to them. My brother got to stay out late, take shopping at school, and wear pants, just a few of the benefits of being a boy. It made no sense to me, and still doesn't. We're all the same in God's eyes. I always felt, if you respect me, I will respect you. Not just because you're a man or a boy. I observed that in society at that time, boys grew up to be men and girls grew up to be girls. In the 70s, there was a training program called All Craft. It was for low-income women and single mothers. We were taught the basics in plumbing, carpentry, cabinet making, and electrical. I liked electrical best. When Local 3 opened the books for women to apply, All Craft brought us sleeping bags, and we headed for the union headquarters in Queens. We slept on the street for a few nights and days, waiting for the local to open its application process on Monday. Thank God for good weather. All Craft and CETA were there throughout our stay, feeding and supporting us. No, they didn't spend the nights. I also met women from new, non-traditional employment for women on the line. Cynthia Long was there, and I'm glad she was. I say the line because it was a long line of sleeping bags and tents that went down the block and halfway around it. I celebrated my 22nd birthday camping out on the street in Queens. When the opportunity knocks, you gotta take it. Later on, I found out that some of the members' sons that come to the local on Monday morning got their application and were accepted into the program. I submitted my application and was accepted into the apprenticeship program. I felt comfortable, capable, and confident in my ability to learn the trade. I was so excited about becoming an electrician, I was going to give it 110%. I was going to be the best electrician I could be. I thought, all I have to do is observe, listen, practice, and apply everything I was going to be taught. I quickly learned that I was not welcomed. I observed hatred, sexism, homophobia, and the anger that went with it. I was invading the boys' clubs. They were not going to do their best. They were going to do their best to discourage me so that I would drop out. I had to fight the fight against racism, sexism, homophobia once again. I would have to fight the fight for the right to be there. I practiced and applied the survival skills that I learned as a child in order to learn the trade while working with haters and harassers. In addition, I had to go to school with their sons, ships off the old blocks. I was fortunate to meet and bond with some women apprentices who were very supportive of each other. Cynthia and Laura Pelver are two of the women that made a tiny sisterhood and a huge brotherhood. We believed that the union was supposed to take care of its members, to represent us. We paid our dues but we paid our dues and we didn't get the same benefits. Cynthia, Beth, Laura, Brunilda, Evan, and I made an appointment to meet with the apprentice director. We expressed in detail that we were going through what we were going through on the job. He told us about how he was a black man on the job and how he had to deal with racism, how he fought the fight and got respect. He said, if you want respect, you're going to have to fight the fight yourselves. It was crystal clear to us that the union and the men were not going to help to support us. They had the same agenda, to get us out. My thoughts were, I have a right to be here, I have a right to learn a trade, I'll be damned if I quit. If they want me out, they'll have to kill me. And so the battle began. They say that God doesn't give you more than you can handle, but sometimes it just feels like it. Through blood, sweat, and tears, we graduated. On the day I received my journeyman card, there were several men seated on the other side of the table, and I was seated quietly by myself. It was a long table, just me and them. They looked at me, and one said, congratulations, you made it. One of them slid my card, flung it across the table, and he said, it still says journeyman. I picked up my card and walked out, and I thought to myself, I'll be damned if that doesn't change. Although not all of us felt as strongly about that particular issue of journeyman, journeywoman, some people felt that as long as we're getting the same pay, that's what matters. I felt having the card say journeywoman was important, not only for recognition that we made it, but for future women who may want to pursue in a career in Local 3. The card will let them know that there are women electricians in the union. A few years after getting my card, I made an appointment with the president of the local. He seemed cordial and sincere. I expressed my concern about the card saying journeywoman, and he said, this should not be so difficult to fix. It's just a matter of changing a couple of keystrokes. I thanked him and left. Needless to say, nothing was done. A few years passed, and I was invited to a meeting that the local had organized for all women in the A Division. Tommy Van Arza was the main speaker. There was a panel of his people seated to his right. He went on about how we should consider ourselves part of Local 3's family. If there's a problem, don't go outside the local, come to us and talk to us. Give us a chance to work it out. I stood up and told him, Mr. Van Arsdale, you want us to feel like part of the family, and yet I still do not have a card that says Journeywoman on it. He said, well, how do we know you're really a woman? He got a few laughs, and when the laughs were over, I said, you should know, Mr. Van Arsdale, the local did my physical when I came in. You say that we should bring our concerns to the attention of the local. Well, I did. I met with the President, President Cleary, some time ago concerning this matter. He said he would do something about it, and nothing has been done. In addition to Mr. Van Arsdale, the contract is not politically correct. It refers to the men, their wives, and is expressed in the male gender. How can we feel part of a family? He turned to the panel and asked, is that correct? And they all nodded yes. I said, Mr. Van Arsdale, I suggest you read the contract. My next card read Journeywoman.
All right.
Lastly, I'd like to express my eternal gratitude to the women authors who have taken the time, Jane Latour, Susan Eisenberg, Francine Mascio, and the courage to put our story on paper so that our struggle is not in vain, to make us part of women's history, to acknowledge us. We are deeply grateful and will always be grateful to each and every one of you authors. Thank you so much.